The downfall of Blizzard must be studied. From the can't do anything wrong company that has fans as its priority to, well, whatever currently is happening and why the World of Warcraft story has turned into a gay ballad. I personally obviously blame the departure of everyone's favorite, not completely Nepo baby, Pirate Blizzard 7 software. You have to admit, the moment he left, Blizzard did go down a lot.
On April 20th, 2021, it was announced that Overwatch game director and co-creator Jeff Kaplan would be leaving Blizzard. And this was news that shocked the world. It just kind of came out of the blue, and it just seemed like Jeff Kaplan really loved working at Blizzard and working on Overwatch, and it just felt like he would never
Well, can't have happiness at Blizzard at this point, so it makes sense.
leave. Many people felt like there must be a reason behind this departure, but we wouldn't find out until recently. Yesterday,
How smart.
a video would release a podcast episode where Jeff Kaplan would speak out about what happened at Activision Blizzard that finally made him go, I've had enough. I've got to get out of here. This all comes in conjunction with the announcement of his new game, The Legend of California. This is his new game development studio, Kinsugiyama. And this is basically a Western cowboy-focused survival game. Ark meets Red Dead Redemption 2. It's kind of the vibes I'm getting from here. So yeah, that's basically what Jeff Kaplan has been up to since he left Activision Blizzard. He basically went radio silent since his departure back in 2021. It's basically been
Interesting. I wonder how fast. I'm not joking, by the way. Everything where ex-Blizzard big-time dev left and made has turned to absolute garbage. So, current expectations is that this is not probably going to be the next big thing, sadly.
5 years since we have heard from him. And not only did he announce a new game, but also he chatted with Lex Fridman on his podcast. That's like 5 hours long, this episode.
Wow, Lex Friedman is still a thing? I thought his reputation has been, well, pretty much completely destroyed after the expose. Wow.
Episode to discuss all aspects of Activision Blizzard from his perspective. And among the things that Jeff Kaplan was asked was why he left Activision Blizzard, what instigated that. Right here we have a transcription of Jeff Kaplan's response via news outlet Video Games Chronicle, and the headline already kind of tells you where this is going. Jeff Kaplan straight up said that the thing that made him leave Activision Blizzard was the biggest fuck you moment in my career. And so here is kind of some of the ugly truths he shared in terms of what happened behind the scenes that ultimately led to Jeff Kaplan deciding that he is out. The breaking point for Jeff Kaplan was a meeting that he had with then Blizzard CFO. This was after the Overwatch League endeavors didn't prove to be successful. The expectations surrounding the Overwatch League were placed too high by executives, and that ultimately led to its downfall. And when signs indicated...
Wait, what are we talking about? Overwatch 2 expectations? Or which expectations? Because Overwatch destroyed itself. And I'm honestly pretty sure it was under this guy, in fact. There have been people in Blizzard from the old times who did a great job, right? But I do think it's a lot of luck that it actually worked out. Think about it. In World of Warcraft, Chris Metzen is back. And people were like, oh, this is the return of the... And now the story is even more lame and gay than it was ever before. Chris Metzen didn't do anything. He's just there for a paycheck. I don't know. I think these people once had it in them, but as time passed, I think they just lost it to begin with. It's not even anyone's at Blizzard's fault. These people just kind of lost it, and that happens. That happens in a lot of industries and with most people.
That the Overwatch League wasn't meeting those sky-high expectations. Pressure came upon the Overwatch 2 team to try to make up for it in other ways. And at one point, then CFO Dennis Durkin, who was with Activision Blizzard from 2019 to May of 2021, this CFO departed 1 month after Jeff Kaplan's own departure. This executive would bring Jeff Kaplan into his office and basically make him an ultimatum and a threat. Here's how Jeff Kaplan put it in his own words.
Threat?
Quote, in 2016 and 2017, I felt very in control of the Overwatch team and of the game as a game director, working with Ray Gresco as the production director. It felt like we were running Overwatch and we were very, very successful and doing a good job, and I think the fans were happy. And then, as we transitioned, Overwatch League was the best intention. My parents always say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That was the Overwatch League, and it ended up being an albatross, and then Overwatch 2 was the same thing, referring to how all this focus on the Overwatch League.
Yeah, so this is the guy who pretty much destroyed Overwatch. Wait, what are we even doing here, honestly? We're gonna claim that this is the good guy? This guy just literally admitted that he had a full overview about everything Overwatch, all the bad decisions that made Overwatch die, the tank meta, the boringness, the everything. And now we're kind of pushing all the responsibility to a chief financial officer who probably, let me guess what happened. Overwatch is not doing great. We're gonna have to let people go because obviously reasons. When something does not, when things don't generate enough money to be sustainable, you kind of have to let people go. I'm assuming this is what happened because that's always what happens. Oh my lord. Maybe he should have made a good game. Maybe he shouldn't have destroyed Overwatch and then this wouldn't have happened. How about that? Wow, talk about zero accountability.
Detracted from the development of Overwatch 2 and the ability to just focus on fleshing out the actual game. He continues, and what ultimately broke me in my Blizzard career was I got called into the CFO's office, and he sits me down and he says, he gives me a date, which at the time was 2020 and was going to slip to 2021, but at the time it was 2020, and he said, Overwatch has to make this amount of money in 2020, and then every year after that, it needs a...
That's called the budget, yeah. Like, was this guy actually surprised that the company has a budget?
Recurring revenue of this amount of money. All of that information was redacted because Jeff Kaplan, I think, is still under contractual obligations to not disclose such figures. And then he, the CFO, says to me, if it doesn't do this amount of money, we're going to lay off 1,000 people, and that's going to be on you. Like
I told you, wait, and that guy is on absolute point. It is. This guy ruined Overwatch. He made everything about it bad. He made it woke slop. And now he's like, oh, the CFO actually wanted to fire people after I completely destroyed the franchise. And my morals couldn't allow for it. Bro, like, come on. Oh my god, again, I dislike this so much. People have this innate want to blame CEOs. Honestly, CFOs don't get enough of the blame. But everyone wants to blame the CFOs. Bobby Kotick is 100% gonna get a slap from this. At least in the comments, someone's definitely gonna blame our fucking spirit animal. Bobby Original Sin. Hard on N-word Kotick. This, by the way, he's the mascot of our channel. What a man. Everyone should be aspire like him, okay? He didn't destroy Blizzard. He salvaged it for as long as it was possible and did the best decisions he could with losers like this working under him. Oh, I destroyed Overwatch and now people are gonna let go? Oh no, that's not my fault. These people should be paid for nothing. Oh, no wonder Young is doing this article. Oh boy, yeah, that's...
on you. Like, that's just straight up extortion. The CFO told Jeff Kaplan, give us this much amount of money for our corporate interests, or we will give you the most cruel task possible, which...
No, Young, that's called having a job, which obviously you know nothing about.
Is to lay off 1,000 of the people that you have been working with. 1,000 of the people that have become basically family to this game development environment and this game studio. And we will make you...
You should never have your workplace considered family. That's just stupid.
You the bad guy. You'll be the one.
Be friends, be nice to them, but don't consider them family, okay? That's how they get you.
We'll have to lay off the 1,000 people. It's gonna be on you. So you better give us that money by this time. It's full-on extortion. Jeff Kaplan then
It's
continued.
not extortion. I want to stop this video right here because this is just gonna be spastic zero understanding of how real life functions.
With this sentiment that I don't blame him for, and that was just the biggest fuck you moment I had in my career. It felt surreal to be in that condition. As somebody who's worked on a lot of games, made a lot of games, you get in these meetings where they're like, Fortnite has 1,400 people working on it. If you just hire 1,400 people and make it free to play, we'll make that money, right? If we just imitate Fortnite's game development model, then Overwatch can do the same thing. And it's like, no, idiots, that's not how that works. Executives. Jeff Kaplan continues, I had believed I would never work.
Why not? Others have done it, and it worked, so why not?
Any place but Blizzard. I loved it. It was a part of who I was, and I felt I was a part of it. And I literally thought I would retire from the place. And by retire, he means that he thought he would work at Blizzard until he was physically incapable of doing his job and fulfilling his duties. He said, I never thought the day would come. If it was up to him, if it wasn't for this kind of bullshit, he would have stayed with Activision Blizzard forever. He would still be spearheading Overwatch, and that was something that he never wanted to leave until the CFO came at him like this, with this kind of extortive tactic. And that was it, says Jeff Kaplan. I was like, we're done here. Luckily for Blizzard, that CFO is no longer there. He doesn't actually go out of his way to name the CFO, but we know for a fact that Dennis Durkin was CFO of Activision Blizzard from 2019 to May of 2021. So, shocker, huh? That it was executives' decision that led Overwatch astray and that led to the departure.
No, Overwatch was already dying and completely out of the water. Well, what did you want the CFO to do? Tell that guy, oh, you ruined everything, but tee-hee, it's all fun and games, hoopla boopla, to keep on going, champ? Well, what? This is how you destroy companies. Now, granted, Blizzard being destroyed would have been the best outcome, but still, like, how do you...
Of arguably Overwatch's most important figure.
People who have never had a real-life job should not be allowed to speak on real-life issues. That's my hot take.
Jeff Kaplan. Now, prior to him talking about this meeting with the then CFO of Activision Blizzard that made him go, I'm out, he also talked about what went wrong with the Overwatch League and how all of that ultimately led to that pivotal moment with that meeting with the CFO that led to his departure, talking about how Overwatch League was something that Jeff Kaplan did believe in, something that he helped pitch, but then the people in charge of the Overwatch League just got overzealous and started to overhype it to investors to the point where investors were basically made to believe that the Overwatch League was going to be as popular, if not more popular, than the NFL. And so suddenly you've got all these billionaires starting to...
Well, yeah, makes honestly sense because the Overwatch League was ridiculously popular. Overwatch was ridiculously popular as a game for a very long time until it got ruined. I personally still to this day will blame the disaster of Overwatch and its downfall, and especially the esports downfall, on the fact that Jeff Kaplan, Jeff Kaplan, under his control, Overwatch for a literal fucking almost year was sitting on a boring 2-tank, 2-support type of metaverse. No one dies. Every single competitive game was just one team being here, and they're like, oh, we're pushing, oh, we're backing. No one dies, by the way. Oh, let's heal up. Oh, we're pushing it, we're backing. Oh, okay, it's time to use all the ultis. Blam! One person maybe dies and the game ends. That ruined Overwatch because that was the meta in normal games and in competitive. No one wanted to watch that shit. No one wanted to play that shit because it was bad. Tracer lost her ass and that whole thing. My God.
Invest in the Overwatch League, and the pressure and the stakes surrounding the Overwatch League got much higher than what was originally anticipated, and so focus had to be pulled away from Overwatch 2 because they had to make Overwatch League work at the level that they dreamed of and fantasized about to please the investors who were overhyped about the potential of the Overwatch League. And so a lot of focus and resources were pulled away from, the actual development of Overwatch 2 and its content, and focus was instead placed on things like integration with Twitch, camera control, and that kind of stuff. The other part of it was a bunch of skins, uniforms for all the teams, which was not just getting the art in the game, but there was huge technical challenges to how all that worked and was efficient and hit the right memory footprint and all that kind of stuff. So it was a pain in the ass to implement these features that were meant specifically to reinforce the Overwatch League. And all of this came at the sacrifice of the game itself, Overwatch 2. Jeff Kaplan straight up said, you're not really even focused on Overwatch 2 anymore. You're just kind of treading water. While Jeff Kaplan was on board with the concept of the Overwatch League, he didn't like the way it was.
Jeff Kaplan was also the guy who said that Overwatch 2 is going to have story missions and challenges and shit. None of that happened. All of it was a lie. Do you think Overwatch would have actually survived if this guy got booted faster?
Being executed.
Well, technically, he never even got booted. He just left himself.
He would start to hear from people who were worried that the Overwatch League would not meet the expectations of investors who invested so much freaking money into this, believing in the overhyped Overwatch League that would be more popular than the NFL or whatever. And so Jeff Kaplan apparently was like, just give them some of the money back and set the Overwatch League expectations appropriately, instead of trying to meet a level of investor hype that was just not possible. The way Jeff Kaplan put it was that it was a...
By the way, you literally have 1,000 people working on this shit, and you're having technical difficulties like getting a team's skin into the game? Like, what the fuck are we even talking about here?
Great idea that the wrong instincts, I don't know how to phrase this in a way that's not damning, but there was too much focus on let's make lots of money really fast, and a lot of people got dragged into it. That right there is basically the bane of...
Again, we're completely kind of ignoring the fact that Overwatch was dirt shit unloved before all of this. Remember, Overwatch was already kind of massively hated by by a lot of people, not a bunch. Before Overwatch 2 came out, and after Overwatch 2 came out, it just became a fucking meme. Okay? Is he gonna take accountability for any of this? I kind of have a feeling he won't. And Young is, well, too stupid to actually understand that there's... Maybe you can't just always blame the CEO for everything. You kind of technically should in a perfect world, but it's not like you always can. Anyway, wow. Jeff Kaplan. His new game's probably not going to work out at this rate, Jesus. Anyway, thanks for watching. That was Young, yeah. Bye.